Hello and welcome to what is, in a sense, the third episode in the Dharmashastras series. We did two episodes with Nitin Sridhar of the Advaita Academy, and in the third episode, I also wanted to bring in Rajeshwari Ranganathan, who is, in a sense, I've been following some of what she's been writing and some of what she has been doing over time, and generally, I have seen that uh, she has a kind of embedded knowledge that comes from having practiced and having and practicing the tradition. So in that sense, I wanted to touch upon a few aspects which included the Shastras themselves and why they need to be practiced, and also the role of women in not just the practice of Dharma itself, but also their effective role in its preservation, in its practice, as well as also their role nowadays in how a large section of our people are getting deracinated and moved away and moving away from the roots of Dharma. So that is the context. So welcome, Rajeshwari. Pleasure to have you on the
It's
podcast.
pleasure to be here too. I have seen the previous episodes with Nitin Sridhar on Dharmashastras, and I must say that I really enjoyed watching those two episodes. And it gives certain practical perspective, as well as without diluting the Shastras. At the same time, it has a context. The problem with the perception, the way we perceive today, many of the practices gets diluted over a period of time. And another problem is we don't understand the context based on which these Dharmashastras were written. And the third point is we usually speak, there is a widespread ignorance, I must say, because everyone wants to rewrite these textbooks. See, the thing is, on what basis would you rewrite is the question. Okay, because they say that we have undergone so many changes, and based on that, we have to rewrite the Dharmashastras to suit the present context. But in another 10 years, more changes are going to take place. So again, you have to rewrite Dharmashastras after 10 years, or after 20 years, or after 3 decades. So there won't be any end to this rewriting of the Shastras. I would suggest, personal opinion, let the Shastras remain as such. We don't need to touch upon it. We can adopt or adapt to certain practices, that would suit the current system or the current needs without diluting the content.
So one of the issues that that we seem to be confronting, and which is critical to this whole exercise, is that fundamentally traditionally how the Hindu Dharma has been structured is that there is a religious social order to the society itself, that everybody in the society, there is a reason why the society is ordered in a particular way, because the whole idea is that that Dharma is integral to the entire social structure itself. At the same time, it is also possible for a few people, in a sense, to log out of the social structure while remaining within the social structure. And these were the, they could they could take sannyasa, for example, and this one. And these people, while remaining with, they were not subject to the same social order in a sense, but at the same time, the relationship between the two was very, very critical. For example, those who were part of the social structure, for whom the practice of Dharma required that they had to maintain the social structure, which is what we are trying to break right now. The whole social structure saying caste is this, caste is the whole practice of the Hindu Dharma is that you need to have a structure under which the Dharma is practiced. And those who decided to take the sannyasa ashrama, or or there was the other option also, that they could remain within the social structure, but at the same time develop a sense of detachment, where they could be part of it, but at the same time, attain to a high spiritual level. So both of these things were possible in the earlier context. Today, the single biggest problem for us, as I see it, is our inability to participate in the social order of Hinduism itself, because we live in a secular framework which prevents us from practicing anything at all. So we might make tall claims of practicing it at home and other things. So, but the Hindu dharmic structure was never that religion is a private affair, and that you cannot bring religion into the public, because it is so closely intertwined in the whole thing. So how do you see this? And I just also wanted to touch upon your own upbringing, because I do know that it's an extremely traditional and kind of embedded kind of upbringing. So if you could touch upon all of those things also, that would be helpful.
Yes, from my personal journey, I have been practicing right from my childhood. And, though it has been, I was born and raised in a joint family, even my maternal side also, we would visit very often. There also, the extended family members gather from time to time. But not necessary that every grandchild or every grandson or a granddaughter should have the same level of aptitude towards practicing or towards adopting these practices. By the grace of God, and of course, blessings of elders, whatever it is, or Guru Kataksham, I had a penchant for this right from my early childhood. And of course, the women in the family, my grandmother, my mother, then the men as well, my father's elder brother, my grandfather, my father. So somehow their influences. I was at home, I never went to hostel or anywhere. So I was a day scholar. So I had I was fortunate enough to be at home, till I got married, till I completed my master's and I got married, I was at home. So when I see, and I was given certain tasks at the time of organizing a homa or a puja at home. So these things brought me closer to these aspects. So, and these things not only brought me closer to these aspects. See, there are two things. One is bhakti, one is adhyatma. Only these two if these two works well for you, then you are fit to fight for a dharmic cause. See, for Dharma, today we see people talking about Dharma or speaking about Dharma and being an activist and on many ways. But the foundation is bhakti. If, in fact, somewhere I read about M.S. Subbulakshmi's quotes. That is, I think it was inscribed on the walls of the Shanmugananda Hall, I guess. Somewhere I read about it, that the mothers should teach Samvedam to children at a young age so that it would develop bhakti in them. I would like to add further, bhakti will ultimately lead to dharma, preservation of dharma. So we need bhakti. Bhakti is the essence of, even if you want to pursue spiritual practices or adhyatma part, the foundation is bhakti. So these kind of practices at a young age, brought me to that line. Though I have been a part and parcel of, college, like political activism and everything, but this was embedded in me. I never gave up. In fact, I had contested elections under SFI panel. So I was so people today be thinking that day you were you in the college union representing the SFI, and today you are talking. No, even then I was regular. I used to visit the Bhagavati temples in my hometown. There was Palakkad, a lot of Bhagavati temples are there. So I do visit on my own, not with my parents, but I do used to visit on my own during my teenage years. So still, I don't think we need to mix up these kind of things. This is your practice, your belief, you believe in something and you are doing it. We don't need to, think what others will think if I spot a bindi or a chandan or a vibhuti. So the kind of that inhibition, kind of what others will think, this is the problem that pulls, that what you call that forbids us from practicing on a public platform. Why should you? How is it going to? Let me. I wanted to. I always tell my students, whether you are spotting bindi or vibhuti or chandan, tilak, whatever you want, it is not going to affect anyone of it. You are putting yourself. How is it going to affect some random person? You're putting tilak on your forehead. It is not going to affect anyone, right? So this kind of that confidence, this kind of thing which you need to reason with your children. This is something you need to see. For example, when your child comes home saying that, see, I'm wearing vibhuti or a chandan, and my friends are making fun of it, or they are looking down on it. So then you shouldn't ask your child to give up. You just convince them you are spotting this. In what way it is going to affect your friend? It is as good as wearing some, extra fittings. Like these days, boys wear studs. Is it affecting us? No, it is not affecting us. The same way, spotting a chandan or a vibhuti is not going to affect your friend also. So this kind of conviction has to come from the parent, from the home. So that is the only way to, bring what reinforcement, this kind of reinforcement, reiteration. This is what we need. We don't need to feel sorry about it. We don't need to feel apologetic about it. I remember during the year 2001, we were traveling to Nagpur for my elder brother's wedding. The train had a stop in Vijayawada. So it was around half an hour or 20 minutes stop. It was a long stop.
Which place?
So my youngest uncle, my mama, he got down from the train. He did a Sandhyavandanam there.
Right.
It was around sunset time.
So
he did not feel apologetic about what he was doing.
Yeah, which station did you say this was?
Vijayawada.
Vijayawada, okay.
Vijayawada. So Vijayawada, usually they have I think long break will be there in Vijayawada. So he had time, around 20 minutes time was there. He finished it off in 10 minutes. So we all were surprised that, his guts to do that in a railway platform. So it left us surprised. So when you have people, when I think people should start thinking that way, no matter what, whether I'm in a hall or or in a meeting or anywhere, you find a correct, if you look into other religion, other faith, you see that they have their own prayer schedule.
Right.
I have friends from all the communities. And I have seen them, they will be talking to us. They would say that, okay, excuse me for 10 minutes, I'll be back. I need to go for prayers. Once the prayer is over, they would return. So that is the level of commitment they have. Unfortunately, we don't have that level of commitment.
Yeah, I think to a large extent, when you mentioned Sandhyavandanam, it's a particularly interesting thing because to a large extent, one of the reasons that I've seen is, there is another episode, Professor Venkatraman, I think it was, who shared a photograph of him doing Sandhyavandanam inside in the prayer room of the Chennai airport. It's actually a namaz room, and he walked in, and there were so many people who were offering namaz, and he did Sandhyavandanam there. And he said there was nobody who objected, none of the others objected. And he said exactly like you are saying, he also mentioned that the objections, the inferiority, the complexes are all inside us, not in the others. And in fact, I think they would even respect you more if you actually do it, because I think the fact is us not doing it means that deep within us, for some reason, I've noticed this. I studied for about 10 years in Christian mission schools. One of the things that many of us, and most of the students were actually Hindus, in this particular school. There were, of course, Christians were there. There was a church inside the campus itself, huge campus. And no, but 80-90% of the students were actually Hindus. And I would notice one strange habit that many of the students had. Just before entering the gate, they would wipe off the vibhuti on their forehead or the chandana and enter. It was not something that this, at least this school. I mean, I don't know about other schools. I keep reading about how schools are preventing people from preventing students from wearing sporting any of these things. But at least in this school, I should say honestly that nobody actually told us anything of that sort. But consciously, many of my Hindu friends used to do that. Wipe their forehead and then enter. So I'm just curious to know. This seems to be a complex, and what I've also noticed is it has come, like you say, from the fact that this particular generation, the previous generation, at least a lot from the previous generation. I mean, in your case, it's an exception. Your mama was this one, but at least I have noticed that many in the previous generation actually gave up many of these practices. And we are seeing a kind of revival where many of us are practicing. For example, at least if I can't do Trikala, at least I compulsorily do at least twice every day. And like you say, the public, sporting any of these things, the vibhuti or the chandanam or those things. So I think is the critical issue, like you brought it up. So how do we actually bridge this gap? Because increasingly, I'm finding that the if you look at Islam, for example, Muslims, for example, they seem to be increasingly getting more and more stronger and more embedded in their religious this one, and the public display has actually increased. I don't know if this is a correct assessment, but when I see it, I think there is an increasing public display of the religiosity. I'm not saying that is a mistake. I'm saying I'm appreciating it as a strength that is inherent to that religion. But we are saying that many of our children are actually uncomfortable displaying their Hindu identity. They want to have a greater global secular identity. So one thing is obviously that the parents are looking at that. But any other from your own experience, because I think I also want to bring into the subject the singular role of women in Dharma, because that is one of the topics that we want to discuss, and how Dharma Rakshana is a critical aspect of the woman in our Dharma. And do you see that, and how do you see that having changed over time and changing over time? We seem to be losing a lot of our women to the to modernism and secularism, right?
See, the thing is, I remember C. Rajagopalachari's words that women are the carriers of culture. They are the carriers of culture. And I also remember Rajaji was at the receiving end for making such controversial statements. Actually, no, he was a progressive thinker. But when it comes to this culture and tradition, he remained, and he said that he was explicit in saying that women had a greater role. And I do strongly believe that women are the torchbearers of culture and civilization. Anywhere, wherever I go, I clearly reiterate this fact. Women are the torchbearers of civilization culture, and we should take it as a pride and a privilege rather than as a burden. Okay. So when you take it as a burden, you have problem. When you take it as a privilege and a pride, uh, definitely you're going to build a strong foundation. I will give you two examples. That is, in the last, probably in the last 1,500 or perhaps in the 2,000 years, the two men who had the most pan-India presence, one was on the spiritual landscape, one on the socio-political civilizational landscape. There were two men. Okay, not that other men were of lesser motives or anything, but these two particular individuals has a pan-India presence. Even one is Adi Shankara on the spiritual landscape. See, I'm not saying that other acharyas are of lesser or anything, but he had an impact across India, from Kashmir to Kanyakumari, from Gujarat to Bengal. He had that pan-India presence. The other person was Shivaji Maharaj.
Right.
Shivaji Maharaj, though he ruled on a particular period of time or particular state, his role or his the impact he has made is just, outstanding. Compared to other rulers. And these two men were groomed by their respective mothers. These two men were groomed by their respective mothers. And Jijabai taught Shivaji the administrative skills and everything. And somewhere I read also, Shivaji literally broke down at the time of his mother's funeral. So imagine a warrior breaking down. So the kind of influence the mother had over Shivaji, Jijabai had over Shivaji was, it was unparalleled influence she had. And here Adi Shankara also had the same influence. It was Aryamba agreed to, accept sannyasa for Shankara. And at the time of Aryamba's death, Shankara comes and he composes Shiva Bhujanga Pratyaya Stotram, because he had promised his mother Aryamba that he would return at the time of her death.
Correct.
So then after Shiva Bhujanga Pratyaya Stotram, he composes the Vishnu Bhujanga Pratyaya Stotram. Then the mother leaves the world peacefully. Then he composes the Matri Panchaka. And even today in Kaladi, you have a separate Samadhi of Aryamba.
Yes, I remember.
And,
I've seen
the
that.
Vaitigas recite Matri Panchakam at the time of Divaradhana, evening Divaradhana. I saw this in 2016 when I was in Kaladi. So the impact of mothers over a child, these two are enough for us to understand women are the torchbearers of, and these two individuals, towering individuals, one was a spiritual giant and other was a true Kshatriya, Shivaji. So I think we could take examples from these women that, motherhood or being a mother or full-time mother is not just, we don't need to belittle that role. You can take that role with pride. You can definitely groom, I'm not saying that we'll be able to groom sons or daughters like Adi Shankara or Shivaji, but at least we can groom children who are deep rooted on Dharma. And that is what the need of the hour is. So women, the importance of women cannot be undermined, no matter what. Even when you say that, so today we are living in a globalized world, corporate world, everything is fine. Okay, that is our livelihood. That could be our livelihood. But the spiritual part is different. We need to find time for that. And we need to make them understand that this is going to happen. And this is what our family is all about. This is what our civilization is all about. This is what our Dharma is. And you focus on that and groom your children accordingly. So women, and the recent example I will give you, not recent, this was around 2 to 3 years back during the Shabrimala fiasco. Remember, all the women in Kerala, they came out in open, regardless of the social status, regardless of the caste and everything, they came out in open. In fact, Supreme Court observed this, that all the women came out in open and registered protest against breaking the tradition. And also there was a tribal woman who challenged the Kerala CM. She said, he is our Ayyappa. He is our Ayyappa and we know how to worship the Ayyappa. And she challenged in front of everyone. So this is the power of women. We need to understand, if we organize ourselves collectively, we can do wonders, we can do miracles. This is what we need to think about. We need to revive, and I think women should take the lead in reviving the entire civilizational process. We need to bring about those changes. We need to revive our ancient practices.
So, in the same context, I think two things that you mentioned. One is obviously the Kaladi, because I used to, for about 2 years, I spent quite some time in Thrissur. So In fact, I used to visit Kaladi almost every month. So in that sense, this is one of the most peaceful places that I've ever visited. Since the kind of spiritual energy that is prevalent in that place is unbelievable. So, in the same context, one of the things that I wanted to touch upon is that you do work with a lot of young girls, right? I mean, as part of inculcating this dharmic grounding, educating them about culture, and all of this. So, I just wanted to check with you on two things. In two parts, I would like you to explain this. One, uh, why did you start this? And what was the idea in starting this, and how this came about? And second is, what has been your experience working with these young girls, perhaps even young boys, and how has that moved, and what is it that you want to do with that in particular?
Actually, I have been doing this for the last 3 to 4 years. But those days, I was guiding young adults as well as elderly women
Okay.
in setting up a puja, nitya puja in their home, how to set up a puja, and preparing a puja manual for them, or the stotra that could be chosen to chant daily. So some people, they with what you call lack of exposure to Sanskrit, lack of. So I would recite and I would send the slokas, because if you look into the YouTube, most of the stotras are tuned. They are tuned in different ragas, which they would find it difficult to chant. So I
This
usually
is this is for
sometimes if
the
I have the
yeah, this is for the elderly people that you
elders,
are. Yeah,
elderly as well as the young adults, who are
young
in their
adults,
20s and
right?
30s,
But
and also
this is for
how.
people. You were doing this online, or
Yes, I was doing online.
right, right, okay.
Yes. So I was doing this online. So it was not at a regular, because I mean there were around 10 to 12 people whom I was guiding for setting up puja and all those things. Then eventually, around last year, I was teaching my nieces, family extended from the extended family. Then I thought, okay, it was during vacation. I was teaching some song or something. Then a thought came to mind, why not continue the same thing? And I would add all these cultural tradition and all the slokas and everything. I would include all these things in my classes. I thought that is. Then I had messaged a couple of my friends on social media. I know that they have a very dharmic background, so they also really wanted to send their kids. So there are boys. Now I have students, but I must tell you one thing. You know, I derive happiness in interactions with children than dealing with the young adults and the elderly women. So this is really, really interesting and really enjoying. I have students from the age group of 5 and till 55 I have. So
Right.
between five, the youngest is the 5 and the eldest is, I mean, 55 plus, I think. So, but among the students, it is between 5 and 14 children. I mean, children between the age group of 5 to 14 in different batches I'm taking. And one thing I would always tell them to the boys, because most of the girls they spot bindi. So I told the boys once that they have to come to my class spotting either vibhuti or kumkum or chandan, anything. It is their choice, but there should be something on their forehead. And believe me, they have been consistently following that.
Right.
One boy comes with a big that tilak, red tilak. He would come with. In fact, last week I had started Vishnu Sahasranam classes for 2 boys.
Hmm.
So that particular day, the boy was so sick actually. It was New Year, so I thought, being New Year, it would be nice to start something new. The boy was having high temperature. Still, he was spotting that tilak when he came to my class. So that is the level of commitment. And here, why they are more committed? Because the parents, I amazing parents, because they see when I say something, when I send a message, they would definitely make sure that it is being done. And I say that, please, I just sent us, statements of what has happened in the class and everything. So as in, I have requested the students to come in with the bindi, sorry, tilak or the kumkum or chanda, anything. immediately from the following class, they follow that, whatever that has been said, instructed to do. So, so there is a parent to say, no, I can only teach, I can only guide, maybe I can walk extra miles for them. But the implementation part, I can reinforce, reiterate everything I can do. But the implementation, the final stage, it should come from the parents. Because these are young kids, 7, 8, 9. So they may not be able to do on their own, or maybe they may be able to do, but they might forget. They are young kids. So that is how their commitment levels have been. And I'm really enjoying when I hear children speaking that the girls are being taught to do Tulsi Puja, and many are doing. Yesterday also I said to them, I had given like a kind of structure, now as say they go in higher classes, they won't find much time to spend for japa or anything. So I've given an idea, a structure, 10 minutes they can do a japa, and like a regular stotra or a regular sloka parayana, every like starting from Ganesha, Lakshmi, Vishnu, and so on and so forth till Anjaneya. We conclude always with Anjaneya sloka on Anjaneya. So we just made a run through yesterday, and we saw that it took only 6 minutes of time. We covered so many slokas in 6 minutes of time. So I wanted to show them that it won't take much of your time. If you plan, you can do it very well within 10 minutes. So no time is not an excuse. And also Tulsi Puja, girls are doing it. So I'm so happy.
Absolutely.
So,
even my own daughter, I mean, she does attend your sections.
yes, yes,
So I've seen that every single day. I know that in the evening she will come and she will do the Tulsi Puja. The Tulsi Madam is outside, so she will go there and perform that religiously.
And I was so happy when she said that she is doing the Tulsi. I was so happy, and my cousins' children, they are also doing, and they would send the video or photo, whatever it is, regularly. I am so happy that these kids, and they are really interested. See, the thing is, I'm not teaching just a sloka or a stotra. So when people approach me to teach slokas, I will straight away tell, see, this is not just a sloka or a stotra class. This is more of a comprehensive thing, and my aim is to make these children in such a way that they would become the torchbearers in future. They would become the torchbearers of culture and tradition in future. I want them to become, to train them accordingly. So this is my goal. And of course, leading them to Adhyatma, or to take up a one particular deity. In fact, I have taught them the Kuladevta worship. So I would ask, what is your Kuladevta? To every child who comes to me, I would ask, what is your Kuladevta? So if someone says it is Bhairava, I would send the Bhairava Stotra. If it is Venkatesha or Venkatachalapati, I would send the Venkatesha Stotra. So Ashtotra is the most simplest thing you can do, 108 names. I said weekly one day, which is the most auspicious day for the particular deity. You chant that particular Ashtotra in that particular day. Weekly once is enough. Okay, your children, and weekly once one Ashtotra is, they will definitely have time to 3 to 4 minutes. So I would also suggest, if you don't want to chant Om, you drop Om and chant the Nama. Because in some Vaidika Sampradaya, we don't encourage to chant Om without initiation. It depends, the practice depends from various region to region. These all depends on the Deshachara. So I cannot insist, but I can give the guidelines. So I am so happy dealing with these kids. Around 15 kids are there as of now. And I don't want to increase the number in a batch, restricting to maximum 10. It gives a sense of happiness and satisfaction, because I really enjoy interacting with the kids. And and for the past 12 years, I've been into the field of this education. So this has given a lot of opportunity to interact with the kids, and I really enjoy. So, and the kids are also that, not just the kids, even their parents, they're also encouraging the children. And I have the freedom to, instruct. That is also there. We need to have a freedom to implement. That is very, very important. So that part is taken care of. And even the 5-year-old, I was just thinking, well, how am I going to teach a 5-year-old when the the parent approach you. But luckily, here also, sometimes the students are my teachers. I was conducting a Shivaratri series for the children. Shivaratri series which span over 10, 12 days. Alternate days I used to take. So around 6 or 7 classes I took them during Shivaratri. So the other batch, one of the batches, that is from 7 to 10-year-old. So the girls were new, 2 girls were new. So they wanted to, so I was introducing Veerabhadra, one for the incarnation of Veerabhadra. So I said, Veerabhadra incarnated this way, Shiva pulled out his hair and Veerabhadra came out of it. Now the girl wanted to know, how does Veerabhadra look like? I don't have the presentation. I had many other presentations, but Veerabhadra, the picture. So, okay, I pulled out one picture from Google and I said, so this is Veerabhadra. So one girl said, oh, he looks scary, ma'am. Yes. Another girl said, he's very angry. Veerabhadra is very, very angry. So the third one said, so they have their own opinion. And when I was teaching Shiva as Nilakanta, they wanted to know how the entire Samudra Manthan and everything. So I have to pull out another picture from a website and show them. So this is how Samudra Manthan happened, Kurma Avatara and everything. So this taught me one thing, that for them seeing is believing. They want to see the pictures. Because why? For a child, seeing is believing. See, for us it is not. We read, we listen, it is a mix of things. But for the young kids, not necessary that all the kids rely on seeing is believing theory, but for some, they want to visualize things. When I told them the story of Sati, the first thing the girl asked was, ma'am, can we see the parts? They want to. So I said, it's not possible to see. So can you tell me which part of Sati Devi fell in Pune? Because she resides in Pune. So that does mean they are visualizing whatever we are speaking. So we need to be ready with what we, okay. So this helped me to teach the 5-year-old. I realized that through pictures, we can communicate a lot of things. And when I started for the 5-year-old, it was, I was little apprehensive how it is going. But the first class, I showed the pictures of Ganesha, his family, his brother, his weapons, the Durva grass, and the Modak, and the Mushak. These are the simple things. The next class, I showed them the features of Ganesha, like Lambodar, Ekadant. So highlighting each of their particular body part. You won't believe the 5-year-old boy, what he would do every time Mahakaya and Lambodar comes, he would jump from his chair or his bed, and he would stand on the bed and he would say, Ganesha is Mahakaya, and he showed that he actually demonstrated Ganesh Ji is Mahakaya. We are very little. So he wants to distinguish between humans, how humans look like and how Ganesha looks like. So I realized that visualization creates an impact in their mind. So this was the biggest takeaway from after teaching these 5-year-old and the 7-year-old. They want the visualization. And slowly I introduced the Vakratunda, Mahakaya Stotra, because it was easy for them. They learned Vakratunda, they learned Mahakaya, individual words. And when these individual words are connected, they get a stotra. So they realize that we can learn stotra through this way. So these are small things, but it makes a lot of difference in them. For us, it is small. Okay, what is there in Mahakaya to show? But for them, it is not like that. For them, seeing is believing. So I really enjoy, but I don't want to add more students to a batch. I would limit to 10. That's it, one particular batch. Because more students means you cannot focus on everyone. The focus everything get distracted. The focus, we won't be able to focus much. So really handpicked students, and currently there are around 15 students across 4 batches. But it's really nice, and I'm really enjoying it. In fact, I have more expectation from these young kids than from the adults. Because see, they are coming with a fresh mind. They are coming with a fresh mind. So whatever you speak, they would listen. They take your words seriously. They would listen to you, and they would try to implement at least. So when you go and tell an adult that you have to do so, that you will be faced with a lot of questions. Why should I do it? I am doing social service. I am doing this something. Another problem with is we equate spirituality and social service on the same line.
It comes from the
This is actually
Gandhi. It
become,
comes from the Gandhian ideal, where
yes,
where
this has become a nuisance. Actually, nuisance. I cannot tell anyone that something good we need to do, so we are doing this. This is also good. No, so it also everything goes to the same. What does everything goes to the same? No, spirituality, bhakti is different. Your work is different. Your service is that is charity. This is adhyatma. We don't understand the difference between charity and adhyatma. That is the problem.
and it also comes from, I was reading just today an article where the Karnataka state government is thinking of reintroducing moral science, and the kind of things that they're saying, that in the moral science class we'll introduce, that we will talk about the what is now very funnily called the Sarvagaram Vada Pav kind of a thing, so that Sarva Dharma Samabhav. So all of these things, and I always used to be very uncomfortable in the moral science classes, because uh, even in school and other things, though I used to attend it, the idea being that morality, ethics, and all of these things are very very I have I have no connection to the dharmic world we are taught. We do not look at the through these lenses, and doesn't really make sense to us to talk of these things, and like you say, connected to the individual as well as the collective spiritual progress. So that is one thing. So in the same context, I also wanted to talk about, do you think you said that you're also working in the education sector for quite some time. So do you think the modern education, because the earlier education system that we had was a completely integrated system where uh, there was a great opportunity to learn things through the dharmic framework, whereas now you need to go to school where you're taught education that is completely removed from the dharmic world you're taught, and then you're taught then we try to teach them that that we belong to a particular sampradaya, or that the dharma is this and all of those things. So there seems to be two opposite worldviews that each of us is being presented. I myself have struggled with that before I uh, have started to reconcile it in one sense, but that has happened after several years of understanding, reading, practicing, and all of those things. So many of our children are actually, live in this dichotomous world of secular education, then our attempts to give them the so. Do you really think that the current education system is compatible with our world, with the dharmic Hindu world we are taught, and how do we reconcile the two, if at all?
Definitely, it is not compatible with the dharmic world. These two are at extreme points. Okay. You see, the modern education has become a sort of necessary evil.
Right.
We need because we need job. So we have become job oriented individuals. We need job, so we need modern education. If you go with your dharmic education, they may not fetch you jobs for whatever reasons it is. So now, what I would like to look at this perspective, you take the best out of the modern education, whatever you skill you are going to get an opportunity to have or exposure to certain skills. You pick up that. I always tell my son, whatever there is in the NCERT test, we know that it is not true. Everything is not true. So you need, be practical. You need marks. Be it right, no matter what the history speak. Because see, last week we were having actually a discussion on the dowry. The discussion came because of the Upward video. Upward had uploaded a video on
Right.
and how the Dowry Act is being misused and everything. So my son and I, we were having a discussion over it, and he was having the CBSE view of the dowry. Okay.
Right. No,
Okay.
very
So,
interesting because I've had a similar conversation with Dakshani also, my daughter, and one of the things I told her exactly the same thing, that exam la pass ஆறதுக்கு இது படிச்சு இது இப்ப எழுதிடு then but the reality
yes,
is something else.
exactly. So I have
So
given
uh,
this is what I did when he was in grade 9 and 10. Because see, that is the time the children start questioning about the practices. That is the time uh, they will start disbelieving in all these things. So you make sure that you are there for your child, be with your child. We know that there will be a lot of distractions around, from the peer pressure, from the school, that is mainly through the peer pressure, then from the social media or whatever, it could be influence them a lot. So I clearly told, I was with him all these years. I mean, especially in 9 and 10 and 11 and 12 also. So I said, see, we need marks. Whatever the CBSE says, you write it. Anyways, we are not going to believe in all these things. The truth is something else. So now with that mindset, you approach, you won't be having a problem. But if you let the child to believe in all these things, then it could be a problem.
yeah.
So what I would say is the parents should be the child's best friend. The parents, either father or mother, should be the child's best friend. Because the reason is, at least till some point of time, because in today's world, they are likely to get misled. Oh, no, they will be misled by a lot of other factors. They'll be attracted or to many other things, or they will be distracted, or no, the entire personality will undergo changes during the age of 13 to 16 or 13 to 17. Once they cross that 17, we don't need to worry about it. Nothing can change their mind. So till that time, we have to be vigilant. We need to be vigilant. We don't know, the distraction could come through any ways. It could come through the peers, it could come from the school, from the teachers, or through the social media. So we need to be vigilant. So modern education, you cannot totally discard the modern education. Another problem is, see, we have so many people, individuals in the Hindu right wing, who would be sitting across in different continents, and they would be lecturing on the vernacular medium. They would be, pontificating about the vernacular medium and everything, while they will be sending their kids to IB schools and international universities.
Correct.
So that is ridiculous. Either you come to India and you preach here, or you just sit there instead of pontificate, or you send your kids to India. Okay.
Yeah, that they're not ready to do. Absolutely not ready to do. What they want is that.
This is as bad as Mulayam Singh's manifesto. In 2009 manifesto had a clause that no English and no computers, while Akhilesh Yadav had his education in Australia.
Oh, so this is very similar to how the Karnanidhi family also. All of them are English educated, but they used to say that we need Tamil medium education. We need this and all of them. The entire family, the extended family, used to study in the modern English schools and learn all of these things, whereas they wanted all of the others to study in this vernacular medium and not become part of it.
Everyone wants Bhagat Singh to be born in neighbor's family. Everyone wants Bhagat Singh to be born in neighbor's family. Nobody wants Bhagat Singh in their own family. This is something very dangerous. But here I would like to say, you pick up what are the things that would benefit you from the modern education, and you take it and you use that for furthering your dharmic education. What I see is, when you look objectively, we lack on the communication and that skill front. We lack the soft skills. Our group they lack soft skills. They are little behind when it comes to communication, whether it is vernacular or the English. So we need to strengthen on those lines. And also we need to develop skills. If you look into the colleges run by the minority institutions, especially the missionaries and all, they have a well set of alumni network. They have got fantastic alumni network. They've got, and what they do, they get into jobs in multinational companies. So what happens once they end up in job, they'll be in touch with their respective colleges, and they could pick up candidates from those colleges, from their own colleges, and they can get easy recruitment. At the same time, if you look into the Vivekananda College or any other institution, we don't have a um, well set up network or anything of that sort. So I would say that you pick up all those professional ideas from them. You go there, you pick up the professional and you implement in our own institutions. This is what my belief is. So we need committed individuals actually. Discarding modern education is absolutely, an absurd idea. We need education, modern education, but make sure your child is not getting brainwashed in the middle of this. So the risk is ours. When you are sending to a modern education, we have a risk, that element of risk of being brainwashed. So how that brainwash can be prevented? Brainwash by the outsiders can be prevented. That is one aspect. And second, nowadays, many are sending their children to gurukuls. Some are opting for homeschooling. In the homeschooling, the children are taught at home. I don't think it is a healthy approach because you're not going to mix with any people. You'll be sitting alone all the time at home. So Gurukul approach, community schooling. This is what I mean by Gurukul. Community schooling, one of my friends, that is one of my student actually, he's based in Gujarat and he's into this community schooling.
Nisarg Joshi that you're talking about?
Yes, Nisarg Joshi,
Right.
his son is there. So, and he is doing really well. I have noticed his progress in the class. I have observed how he interacts in the class, the way, whatever he could pick up easily, whatever that is being taught, he grasps easily. No, normally we have apprehensions whether the children that is being sent to community schooling, whether they would perform well or no. But I'm so happy that he's sending. So you have that option. Either you send if you don't want the modern education, then send your child to the community schooling. But again, for community schooling, you need to have at least 10 to 15 parents or 10 to 20 parents. Then only it will be effective. And what I noticed from their community schooling initiatives, that for Ganesh Chaturthi, they would do a drama, some sort of cultural program. Then same for the Janmashtami. And even this New Year also, they celebrated together with the children. So either you have three options. One is homeschooling, one is modern education, and one is this community school. I would say that community schooling is the best idea, but you need like-minded parents. So that is a challenge. Like-minded parents, getting around 20 like-minded parents is a big challenge for us.
Correct.
So that is where somewhere we can, generally, I think the people with committed shared ideas, or they can pitch in and they can establish a community schooling if possible. If it is working in Gujarat, definitely it should be working in other parts of India as well.
One other thing that if you could throw light on, if there is, I was, conversation with Shri Kumar the other day, on, we spoke about Grama Devatas, Kula Devatas, the tradition and all that, and we particularly spoke about the traditions of, particularly because he writes extensively on Karpar Swami, Munishwaran. Yes. And all of that, so that we spoke. And one of the things that we spoke about, and something that I have also incorporated into my life, is that there is a minimum amount of something of practice that you must have, and then obviously you have the maximum. For example, the Kanchi Paramacharya himself says, given that most of us are in the modern world, we have jobs and other things. Maybe you can't do all of the things that are prescribed. If you look at all of the things that are prescribed, I mean, it's so difficult. You might
Yes.
You have to do a Sandhya Vandanam, you have to do the Nitya Puja, then you have to do the Upasanam, all of those things. Then all of those things which may not be possible. But he says so you put a minimum, say, okay, this is something that I will not do. I am sorry, this is something that I will do. And then always have the weekends where you can do a lot of things. For example, if you can't do, Gayatri Japam is 108, 32, 64, 64. That is the Prata, Madhyanikam, and Sandhya. So the Kanchi Paramacharya says, so on Sundays you do 1008. I mean, so what prevents you from doing it? You have no excuse. So that kind of a thing. So you have a minimum and a maximum kind of a thing for special days and other things. So in that sense, what according to you would be the minimum that our children have to do, that even adults, for example, have to do, and how do we put that into practice?
This
What are
is
your
what
thoughts on that?
continuing with what I said earlier. In yesterday's class, we just did a run through. What is the minimum we can do in a given day? I said 10 minutes, but let us check whether all these slokas can be covered in 10 minutes. So when we saw, I made them chant one after the other, the sloka, and we found that it takes only 5 to 6 minutes maximum. But maximum 5 to 6 for a child. Okay. For a given structure, like starting from Deepam, that is Shubham Karoti, then Ganesha Vandana, Guru Vandana, then Ganesha Vandana, Guru Vandana, then Mahavishnu, Lakshmi, Shiva, Shakti, Ayyappa, Muruga, then Anjaneya, Krishna, and Rama. Altogether comes only around minimum. Okay, this is around 5 to maximum 6 minutes. Then I told, pick one of the days in a week and chant that particular Ashtotra, their Kula Devata, whatever, whichever Kula Devata they have. Chant the Ashtotra of that particular Devata on that particular day. If it is not possible on a weekday, you do it on a weekend. Okay, this is what I have given them the basic idea. Then one important thing I have told this, I reiterate always to my girls, to light the deeper. This is something which I really wanted to speak on. See, earlier days, women used to wake up early. Men also used to wake up early, not just the women. Both men and women used to wake up early. It was the woman's responsibility to light the deepam early morning during the Brahma Muhurtam. Okay.
Right.
So normally we have either two lamps. One will be in the puja altar. One will be another deepam. In certain, in the Agraharam homes, the entire puja room is very big hall. So it won't be much of a problem. The woman would go to the puja room and would just light the deepam, and they carry the deepam towards the front yard, and then they would take it back and they would keep it in a particular place. So the purpose of carrying that deepam is to welcome the Sri Devi in the early morning. Okay, this is the belief. And after that, when they have their shower and everything, then the deepam in the puja altar will be lighted. Okay.
Right.
Then again, at that point of time, even the man is sitting for a puja. It is the woman who lights the deepam there. And during the homa, when at the time of homa, when the purohita comes, he calls either the daughter-in-law, or the mother in the family to light the homa gunda.
Right.
We take a camphor, we place it in a coconut husk or in a varali or anything, and we drop it on the homa gunda. This is also being done by the woman. That means woman holds the Agni. Woman holds the Agni. This is something we don't realize it. So whenever I say that, women has to light the deepam, the next question that comes to me is, why men cannot do it? Why men shouldn't do it? Why we always should be doing it? It is not why men cannot do it. It is you have the competency, you are the competent person to light the Agni. It is your adhikara. You have the adhikara too. Women have the adhikara too. Women are the only ones who have the adhikara to hold Agni. And it is their duty, responsibility, as well as privilege. It shouldn't be viewed as a burden. It should be taken as a privilege. And in fact, yesterday I spoke to all the girls in the class. I said, see, now you're girls. So it is, so you'll be at home. When you step into womanhood, also remember this fact that women should hold the Agni. Wherever you go, wherever the deepam needs to be lighted, take it, lead it, and you do the job of lighting the deepam. You don't need to feel ashamed or to be, you don't think that you're being belittled by anyone. It is actually, and without Agni, we cannot carry out any rituals. Whether it is a small puja or a big yajna or homa, Deepam has to be there or Agni has to be there. So, and who holds the Agni? It is the woman who has to hold Agni. So,
Very interesting, because in the mantras that are chanted at the time of marriage, there are three things that the man says. One, he says, initially you were, this is what he says, it tells the girl, initially you were under the sway of Soman, which is the Chandra, and the Panchakacha that the man wears is also sometimes referred to as Soman. He wears that. Then he says, from Soman, you were handed over to the Gandharva who held you, because that is the age. And finally, you are under the sway of Agni. So, and then he says, okay, now I'm marrying you. So it's a very interesting connection that we also make at the time of marriage. That many of us don't even understand what mantras we are chanting, but that is how the girl is, accept the man tells her that, and then he enters into that marriage. And the second point about women holding the Agni, very important point that you make. That is why she is called Grihini, and the man is only the Grahastha. I mean, he lives in the house, whereas she is the one who is the, in a sense, for lack of a better English word, I'm saying, owner of the house, in the kind of sense. So she's the Grihini, and in Tamil also we have that, the Illarat Arasi. I mean, the man is never called Illarat Arasan. I mean, she's the queen.
Correct.
Yeah.
And yes, Agni is an important thing, the most important thing. It is not just an important thing, it is the most important thing for all our rituals and functions. Imagine you are the owner of that Agni. You are going to light that Agni. You hold the Agni. So that is the most powerful position, I would say. If you ask me, it is your right, your privilege. Never give up. Yesterday I told this mentioned this categorically, that never give up your right. It is your right. So girls, you light the, if your mothers are not able to light the deepam, you take the lead in lighting the deepam. Also, when you get married or when you step into womanhood also, you continue the same, because it is your right. Don't give up your right. Okay, so here we bring all the equality theory and all the nonsensical theories people would bring. Why a man cannot do it? It is not he cannot do it. It is that it is our our right, our privilege to do that. So this is something mothers, doctors, everyone needs to understand. It is not a man should not do. It is that you should do. You should be doing, because it is you're the one who has that adhikara to do that. A man does not have the adhikara to do that. This is something we need to understand. And second, so it's a day normally starts with Agni. Only after lighting that Agni, we step into the kitchen even to boil a glass of water or to make a coffee or tea. So that should be, this also I have told them, the first light in your home should be the Agni in early morning.
And the point you mentioned about, there is one lamp outside. Absolutely. Even at our home, we call it the Nanda Deepam, that, the Deepam that is lit, that is outside the puja room, because puja room, you enter only after you have had your bath, your snanam and all of those things. And therefore the Nanda Deepam is lit first, which is a compromise in the modern houses. You don't have Agraharams now, so.
Agraharam house, they had a big hall and there will be separate puja almara. So we are not touching the puja almara, so there will be the bigger Deepam will be there, so we'll be lighting that. So these things you can change, it can change according to the place you live, but it should not be given up completely. So the day should start with the Deepam. The first light should be the Deepam, that is the Agni. And it has to be done by women. Only in the absence of women, women cannot do it. A man or any other family member can do it. Normally we show that Agni towards the front yard, But nowadays, with all these door closer and everything, I don't think we will be able to do that. So it is better that they can stick. See, certain things we can make changes, certain changes can be made. We may not be able to follow because of the lifestyle, certain fact, like door closer we did. How can we take the Agni to the front yard and show the Devam? It is impossible to do that with a single hand. So the next thing is, is to have shower or anything. And again, people, why should we take shower? Why can't we cook food? And all those things will come. These kind of questions will come. And I would like to tell that during COVID, we were so hygienic conscious that we started washing everything so many times. And because of the hygiene factor, we were scared that, okay, and we used, many people, I know they used to have shower 5 or 6 times a day during this COVID thing. So when your life is at threat, you are doing all these things. But when you say the same thing for religion or your rituals, you're not ready to do that. This is a sad state of affairs, actually.
So the person I was learning Vedas from in Bangalore before we moved to Mysore, Sri Anantanarayanan, used to be so strict in observing all of these things, and he used to say, இது பண்ண முடியலன்னா எப்படி இருக்கணும்னா முள்ளு வேலியில கட்டி போட்ட மாதிரி இருக்கணும். You should feel so bad that you're not able to do it. And one of the things that he used to insist on is that, for example, he never used to eat outside. Some of us used to feel so bad when we used to travel with him for this one, because if he used to fast for days and end, unless he used to eat some fruit or drink some milk, and he say. So we had to tell people beforehand, the Madia Samachirna Matra Sapadwar. People used to make fun, but he never used to be worried. He used to say, this is how I want to lead my life. And he's not some this one, he's a corporate lawyer who has worked in the, who used to head the corporate affairs of an organization. But he still used to be so strict in observing all of these things, and used to say that, and he had also this policy, for example, that any food was only served once. So if people knew, they would at least serve, a decent quantity before and all that. People who did not know, they would serve small quantity, and they would say, Inniki Narayanan has given me only this much, he will say. And then only that the host would realize, oh my God, I have not served him enough. And he said, no, Narayanan has told you this, that's why. So that kind of lifestyle is possible even today. And he's not some person who had not studied modern. Like I said, he was a law practitioner of law, and all of these things. But he also used to do this, and he used to say, one of the things that I think the Kanchi Paramacharya in fact was asked the same question that you brought up. Why should you be so clean and all that? And he mentioned, for example, when we do puja, we say Deho Devalaya Prokta Jivo Deva Sanatanaha. That this body is the temple, and the divinity that dwells within is an amsha of the Paramatman. So if that is true, so how can you do anything without maintaining basic cleanliness?
We need Vak Shuddhi, Manashuddhi, and Deha Shuddhi.
Correct.
Only these three can see. When it comes to the Madi Achara, people would often question me, saying that why should Manashuddhi is enough. Because that is the easiest way, this is the easiest way. You can do anything, whatever you want, and you can escape under the tagline Manashuddhi. But the thing is, Vak Shuddhi, Manashuddhi, and the Deha Shuddhi is only these three actually should coexist.
Correct.
So these three should coexist. This is something we don't realize or we don't even understand. And that is the reason many people don't speak anything in the morning hours until their puja is completed. Because Vak Shuddhi is essential. And if someone starts a conversation and the person gets triggered, and that Vak Shuddhi will be lost.
Correct.
So that is the reason we maintain silence in the early morning hours till our puja. Sometimes I tell my son, please don't talk to me for another 1 hour or 2 hours, because I have so many things to do. Because unconsciously we may engage in conversation. The conversation could go on and on, and finally our work will get derailed. our puja and everything. So
No,
this is
absolutely. I
some,
mean, you can definitely get triggered. I myself have, faced that when, because we are all, normal people living in a normal, stressful life. So, I mean, it's possible. That's why, one
and
of the, yeah, I try to get
one
these
is
things.
it could trigger our temperament, and second thing is that we'll be diverted or distracted into various topics. It could be politics, sports, or anything. So our mind will be going through that way. And when you sit for the japa, again, it is very difficult for us to bring back and to even whether it is a social using social media or anything. So these are the reasons. Actually, there are valid reasons when the Shastras say that you have to observe Akshuddhi, Manashuddhi, or Dehashuddhi.
Yes.
There are valid reasons. We can experience. The only thing is we don't realize it.
And Chitta Shuddhi is function of all of these things, not just japa and meditation. I mean, you need all of these three things, vak, deha, as well as manashuddhi. All of these things critical to.
Yes, these coexist. So we need to have we have to cook food. Cook food. It is always advisable to have a shower and then cook food, so that we can offer that to God as well as a naivedya. Whatever you cook, you can offer as a naivedya. No, cooked food. Annam is the best naivedya. Annam is the most important naivedya, and that is the best. And many families have done away with all the annam and practices. We have, we are sticking to dry fruits or rice flakes, or even fruits. So we have reduced to that. Okay, whatever Yatha Shakti, that is the only thing we can say in this world, Yatha Shakti. That is another excuse we have to, cover up our inability, Yatha Shakti. Then Panchopachara is the basic thing one can do. I would say Panchopachara, like Pushpam, Gandham, Snanam, or anything that 5 or 6, or how much ever, but at least 5 upacharas you can offer, including Naivedya. And this is the minimum. And it could be better if they could offer to animals, or not necessarily that everywhere you have a crow. It is better if, best thing is to offer it to the crow, that is to the pitras. If not, at least birds or animals or anything. That I think that is also. I think Kanchi Paramacharya has mentioned about this also, as offering to. Then these are the minimum thing we can do in the morning. And of course, the time you need to do japa, it depends on each person to person. Some may can afford 30 minutes or 1 hour, or they can sit through for a japa. Definitely it will be very nice and effective. But in many cases when people wake up late, this also I told them yesterday in the class. I just gave them an example, like in a day you have 24 hours. Imagine you're utilizing 8 hours for sleep. The remaining is 16 hours in your hands. So you are the owner of 16 hours. Now you can decide how to utilize the 16 hours. But if you wake up little late, the time will decide what are the things you can do, you are capable of doing. But if you wake up early, you can decide what are the things that have to be done. The time will control you. Here you have a control over your time. So it all depends on the time management. If you want to wake up early, it is always advisable to wake up early. It has a better effect. And then do the japa, and especially evening sandhya. I always tell my students, do not engage in any sort of entertainment activities between 6 and 7.
In the evening.
Do the japa for 10 minutes, sit peacefully, or you do your homework, or if you want to practice music, best thing you can do, you can practice music, or you can practice any art forms or anything, but do not engage in any kind of entertainment activities during the time between 6 and 7.
It is true.
Normally,
the Sandhya Kalam,
we don't even
critical.
cook actually. Not just eating, we don't even do cooking. Cooking is prohibited during the Sayam Sandhya, right? So these are the small things that we can follow in our home. So at least, I think a person can easily squeeze around 30 minutes, morning and evening together. I think 30 minutes I think it should be,
Yeah.
one must be able to do within 30 minutes, morning, and as well as in
I
the
mean, if
evening.
you do the Sandhya Vandanam in the proper way, to me, I think it takes about 35 to 40 minutes, which is 108 Gayatri Japam, and then because you should do 10 pranayamas before you start the Gayatri Japam. It's a very interesting story. I think you will enjoy this. Again from Sri Anantanarayan. When we were having this, we used to have these discussions, and he said, எதுக்கு 10 பிராணாயாமம் பண்ணோம் before Gayatri.
Yes, I remember you had written about it in one of
Yeah, correct. So
that your life will be even more longer.
Yeah, he says pranayama extends life. Then he says Gayatri
Right.
Japa is so important that if Yama is standing at the door and if you're close to death, if doing those 10 pranayama will extend your life enough to do 108 Gayatri. So I mean, so that is the kind of these are the things that I learned from. I mean, I should say I've been very blessed to have interacted with such people and to have learned all this. But I mean, it's so very practical kind of suggestions and ideas that you can imbibe and do. And absolutely, I agree that there are very few excuses that we have for not doing these things, because we spend so much time, like you said, on entertainment, social media, on and all of these things, that to say that we can't set aside say 1 hour in the morning, 1 hour in the evening for this, to me seems it's definitely, I think it's definitely possible.
At least half an hour altogether. If a person has to travel a lot or commute, who spends a lot of time in commuting, and they will not be able to perform, spend more time, no problem. I also suggest this weekly once. Okay, in the normal days you restrict to 10 minutes, 15 minutes or 30 minutes, but weekly once, sit, pray for your Kuladevata. Make it a habit in your life. And certain things parents need to teach their kids from the beginning is, first and foremost, family history. Their roots has to be taught. The second is the Sampradaya. See, it could be Shakta, it could be Shaivite or Vaishnava or a Smartha or the normal, Sri Vaishnavas or Trika system or whatever it could be. Teach your kids what is your Sampradaya, family Sampradaya. Okay. If you don't teach your kids your Sampradaya, others will be teaching their Sampradaya. Or there won't be any Sampradaya at all. Absolutely. The child will remain clueless. And the second thing is the Kula Guru. If they have any particular Kula Guru, for generations, to follow the Kula Guru, then Kula Devata, Grama Devata, their Gotra. So these 5-6 things are very important. Without these things, don't start the dharmic journey. Your dharmic journey to dharma or bhakti starts from your family history.
So when you say family history, you're talking of a family tree that people have to.
Yes, at least for the last 3 generations. Last 3 or 4 generations. At least they need to be familiar with.
Yeah, at least.
I have seen people coming at one point of time here, my home, when the Purohita comes for Amavasya Tarpana.
They won't know.
Yeah, there will be around 7 to 8 gentlemen who would converge here. So they also will be doing the as a focal point. I have seen many people who come without understanding the Gotra. And then they would ring their family back home, India, and they would ask, okay, what is the second generation name of the third generation, the previous generation? So to avoid all these things, it is always better to teach the the family names, at least for the last 3 to 4 generations. Family history.
So even the Tarpanam is for the last 3.
Yes, last 3. Or if you want, you can add 4. Or general. For create to know an awareness, it would be, ideally speaking, last 5 generations. To know the awareness. But for Tarpana, we use the 3 generations. So the family history is very important. Your Gotra, your Kula Guru, Kula Devam, Grama Devata, and your Sampradaya. Which Sampradaya you belong to? Whether you belong to Shakta, Trika, or Sri Kula, any whatever be the sampradaya, teach that sampradaya. Okay. This is fundamental. Without this is the base, and this is from here the journey towards Dharma. You can go to several temples. See, what is the purpose? You are not respecting your parents, but you are doing donations to orphanage and old age homes. And you're not treating your parents well at home, but you're speaking about old age home and you're running old age home. It does not make any sense. The same way you're running on a on a temple spree. You're hopping from one temple to another, but you're not visiting your Kula Devam. You're not even remembering your Kula Devam or Grama Devam or your Kula Guru. So first start with these 5 or 6 things. These are the assignments normally I give to my students. Find out your Kula Devam, find out your Grama Devam, find out your Kula Guru, what is your Sampradaya, so that they will have an idea. Okay, this is something there, and I have to follow this. So what happens is when you every week you are asking your child, or there is a family prayer where you are praying for your Kula Devam or a Grama Devata. What happens over a period of time, the child develops a bond with the Kula Devata or a Grama Devata.
Absolutely.
And once that bond is established, nothing, no brainwash could work with that child. Maybe the child will develop capability to brainwash others, but no one can touch that child. But because this is a systematic procedure, systematic practice that has been instilled, deeply ingrained, or you can even call it as a indoctrination. Maybe you can call it as an indoctrination, whatever be it. But once you are done through this, definitely your child is not going anywhere. The child will remain deep rooted. So this is the this is the primary step we need to focus on. And once you focus on these, other things will fall in place. You don't need to worry about any other thing. But this you need to establish. So first, the parents have to find out who is their Kula Guru, Gotra, and everything. So that is the real task. The parents are clueless. Maybe they will not be able to.
Absolutely.
They will not be able to perform all these things for the children. So talking is another thing, and actions are different. Action, when it comes to action, you need to invest time. You need to take efforts. You need to really take efforts to put into practice.
So, no, we've been speaking for close to 1 hour.
Yes, yes.
90 minutes now. So, and I just wanted to touch upon one last aspect before we end this. This one. One is that increasingly, many of our girls are getting attracted. I mean, we can attracted towards people of other religions, and I think there is also an effort from the other side. I might as well share this with you. For about 7 or 8 years ago, I started working on documenting, much like documenting the secular loot of Hindu temples, which I've done about 3-4 parts of it on my blog. I started documenting what was then what is it was only the beginning. It was called love jihad then, and people getting taken away from their roots and being. But I could, during my study, and it is basically Google research that I did, I could collect information close to about 70 to 80 pages of information. I never published it for whatever reason. I still have all of that information of the number of cases, the attempts that are there. I could even collect pamphlets of how this was done, how this is being done, and all of this. So I am convinced that it's an effort that is ongoing. I mean, I have no doubts in my mind, because I have studied this enough to know that this is something that is happening. So this is one thing that I also wanted to. How do we, in a sense, face this, and how do we also ensure that our own girls are not attracted or are taken away from our fold straight? Because we have established that women are critical to the protection of Dharma Rakshana. That is why she is called the Dharma Patni. Without the Dharma Patni, the Dharma can't be protected by the. So how do we take that? I understand all of these things, but have you seen this, and how do you see this whole issues?
Women As I said, women are the carriers of culture. That is the reason every advertisement or every movement are targeted towards women. That whether they will invoke the feminism element in everything. They would highlight the feminism element, liberation, feminism. So these are the
Correct.
empowerment. So liberating women, and we are empowering women through feminism in everything. So women is the nucleus in a family. All we need, see, no matter whether you live in a globalized world or a corporate world, you may be working in a corporate world or whichever part of the world we are in. One thing shall remain the same, that is women are the nucleus in the family. Family system, women are the nucleus. So this is something we need to understand. Women are the being women as a nucleus. So obviously the efforts will be targeting the woman from the vested interests. Okay. Once you target, once the vested interest targets us, what happens? It leads to the breaking of the entire family structure. It breaks the entire family system and the family structure. So here we need to be aware. I mean, mothers. Why I insist, I keep insisting mothers, because it is, psychologically, it is a child can easily relate to a mother. Generally, at least formative years. I'm not talking about once they reach the teenage. Maybe in the teenagers, they may have a very good rapport with the fathers. But in the formative years, in the primary years, uh, the first point of contact is always the mother. This is something we have to realize. So no matter whether man, woman, everything equality, everything okay, fine. But the child psychology, you cannot tell a child that why are you coming to me? Why don't you go to your father? You cannot tell a child, because it is the child's instinct or the psychology to immediately connect with the mother. Okay, there are exceptions, that is some child easily connects with the father. That is a different thing. But at least in the formative years, when the child is 7-year-old, or 8-year-old, or 9-year-old, definitely the first point of contact is mother. So the mothers have a greater role to play on this. So utilize those time, your interactions, to show them the world, to show them, what is the reality, what is the civilization, what is our religion, what is the through stories, to through bhakti stories or adhyatma. What happens is that the child automatically develops those things, and certain things get instilled or inculcated in it automatically. Even though the mother asking the child to do certain things becomes inherent. So this is the first one step you can do. And over the years, when they see the age between 12 and 16 or 13 and 16 are, you have to be very, very cautious. That is the time they are going to get distracted through various other, social media or peer pressure or whatever. And those times you have to be with your child. And I'm surprised people would say, I'm spending quality time. What is that quality time? When our parents never use the word quality time. You may be in the kitchen, no problem. What prevents the child from interacting with you when you're in the kitchen? Listen to what the child speaks. The child will have to speak, say something, listen to it. You can multitask. On one side, you can do the work, you can listen to what, or you may be doing the office work, your official work. Yes, let the child speak the mind. We don't let their mind speak. That is the fundamental problem. They have so many doubts. They are having, and they have some insights, very good insights. Sometimes they are scared to speak, open their mouth. That barrier has to be broken. Otherwise, it is very dangerous. You need to be a child's best friend until they step into university. You need to be a child's best friend. Remember that. The child should share everything with you. See, you are subscribing to Netflix or Amazon Prime. That is not how you are sharing happiness on your child. A child becomes secured, or the child feels secured when the parents spend maximum time with the children. Maximum time in the sense interactions. You don't need to keep aside a separate timing for the interactions. It can flow just like that. So assure them that no matter what, I am there with you. So definitely the child will be sharing every moment, whatever they have done in the class or whatever their problems they are facing or whatever doubts they have, they would definitely, whether it is from the history books or it could be international affairs or it could be the local politics, anything, the child must be able to discuss with you. That is for that, we mothers need to take the lead role, understand the child or whichever parent who is able to tackle the issues much better. That either the father or the mother should be the child's best friend until they reach university. Otherwise, we get trapped into so many illusions, and it is once they are kept trapped, it is very difficult to bring them back to normal. I have seen these cases, I have dealt with these cases because many parents come to me, both boys as well as girls. So I have seen the problem they face. So only one thing I advise is be with your child no matter what. You may scream at them, they don't have a problem. See, when you won't have a Netflix or Amazon Prime at home, the peer group might mock you. When you don't have the expensive gadgets, the peer group might mock you. Okay. Because my son has gone through it and I have taught him how to deal with them. Right? So every day he would cry. He would come home crying that Amma, that he spoke like this, he spoke this. So I told him, tell them, you may have so many things, but you know what? My mother spends the entire time with me. So that is more important than these things. These things shall perish, but this won't perish. It shall remain forever. So I teach him to tackle these kind of questions. So the parents, mother should give them the confidence that, see, if someone asks you this way, go and answer this way. If someone mocks you in spotting a bindi or a vibhuti or anything, deal with them the other way. So these are the different ways. So what happens is that first the child should be comfortable in communicating the problem with you. Suppose XYZ, a random person is approaching a girl and is sending a letter. Initially, we cannot blame the girl here. Initially, the girl might be scared to share this with the parents. So why the girl is scared? Because there is a kind of distance or there is a gap between the child and the parents. So the child must be able to open up easily with either of the parents. That is the most important thing we need to look into. Unfortunately, we are busy building our careers. We are busy building our, professional identity and everything. But in the middle of all these things, we are losing something, very important. We are losing our civilization as well. We are losing our own kids. So it is. I won't say that we should micromanage. Don't micromanage. Let them be. Let them do whatever they want to. Just supervise them. You must be able to figure out instantly. Okay, something is wrong with the daughter, or something is wrong with my son. You must be able to figure out that can be done only through constant communication, conversation. It could be a silly exchange about food, or it could be a serious topic about international relations or international politics or sports or spirituality. It doesn't matter what kind of topic you're discussing, but always keep the conversation going. So that is what these things are happening because there is a huge gap between the parent group and the children. This needs to be fixed first. We have time. See, again, here also the time factor comes in. That we don't have time to spend with our kids. Okay, fine, we understand the limitations of the corporate jobs. But I say, you're in the kitchen. Let the child communicate when you're in the kitchen, or the father could be doing the official work, no problem. Let the child communicate when the father is doing what harm is going to, what is the harm in doing so? So we are actually searching for an ideal time, quality time. The time is with us. Yeah. See, there is a saying in Tamil, So you have the time and you are searching for a quality time. So the entire problem of
In fact, I have seen some parents, schedule their meetings with their children on Google Calendar and those kind of. I'm not joking. Seriously, there are some parents who have started to do that, saying that's the only way we can do it, and therefore, so so it's funny, but absolutely very important point that you made. It was a thoroughly enjoyable conversation. Thank you so much, and I think.
thank you. I also enjoyed, we got to know more insights about Hindus, and especially I have read many of your posts on Paramacharyas, based on the Paramacharyas they have included in everything. So it's always pleasure to read your, whether it is Vishnu Sahasranamam or your Facebook post or your blog post. It's really a pleasure to read, and thank you very much.
Thank you so much.